Hello, hello. Hello, how are you? And welcome to session number 18. I am so excited to talk to you guys about emotional resilience in cells, but also just emotional resilience overall, because it's something that we all need to have, right? So, good morning and welcome back to our 30 days of faith, confidence, and high income skills. Today, we're going to talk about something that separates people who succeed long term from people who give up way too early. Now, the average person usually gives up too early. Have you ever seen that meme where it's like the mimer is digging for diamonds and he's like this close, like a sliver this thin for him to hit the diamond, and he decides to give up because he's been digging for too long? A lot of times that's you. That's most people. So I want to talk to you guys about emotional resilience, okay? So let me explain what I mean by that. Have you ever had a day where everything felt amazing? Everything felt great? Maybe you had a good conversation. Maybe someone said yes. Maybe you felt confident about your future plans. And then a few days later, something doesn't go the way that you expected. Maybe someone said no. Maybe the progress that you were expecting felt slower than what you expected. And suddenly your emotions begin to change. You start questioning things, like thinking things like, am I doing this right? Is this actually working? Maybe I should just quit. That emotional roller coaster is something that every single person goes through and experiences when they are building something new. So I want to give you reassurance. You are not alone. Every great person experiences these different types of emotions. And it's not about experiencing the emotions, it's about what you do with it when it comes to you. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So, today we're going to talk about how to develop the emotional resilience to keep moving forward. How to develop the emotional resilience that you need to be able to move forward. So, let's start with a few passages of scripture, or a few verses. Let's start with James chapter 1, verse 3 and through 4, 3 through 4. And it says, "For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow." What does it say? So when your faith is tested, your endurance, your tenacity, your will to continue on, it grows. So let it grow. Now, how do you let it grow? You allow your faith to be what? Tested. Tested. God will test your faith. God will test the things he put inside of you. God will test your ability to stand firm on his word and on the things that you believe and on the things that you're saying that you're going to do. Notice what this verse teaches. Endurance doesn't grow when everything feels easy. Endurance grows when faith is tested. Endurance grows when your faith is being tested. Resilience is developed through experience. Resilience is developed through experience, and those experiences only come in the trials. Those experiences only come in the test. That's why the word says in Philippians 4 and 13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now, this wasn't just a statement, like an empowering statement, like a motivational quote that you can read over yourself to help you to maybe be able to do something. But this was a revelation. This was a revelation that Paul had at that moment where he realized that, okay, I have this much strength, but the God that I serve, when he sees me in my weakness, When I am weak, he is strong. And coupled with his strength, I can go to the moon. I can do this. I can do that. Now, that confidence is built in the test, because when you overcome some things in the power of his might, not in your power, but when God couples his strength with you and comes and rescues the day, when you thought it was all over and you made it another day, when you thought everything was, everybody's going to hate you and you're still here and people still love you. And when you thought ABCD and it wasn't what you thought, you realize that you are resilient, and it's built through experience. So let's talk about why cells triggers emotions, okay? Because this is important. Cells and personal growth naturally create emotional highs and lows. You might feel excited after a great conversation and then discouraged after a rejection. Then motivated again after learning something new. Then uncertain during a slow week. Your emotional cycle is very, very normal. Even if it's up and down, even if it's peaks and valleys. The challenge is that many people mistake emotional discomfort with failure. Many people mistake the lows with failure. They mistake the moments, the years of hardship, the times where things weren't going how they wanted it to go with the end of the story, right? But remember, you're still on a chapter of your story, and it's not over till who says it's over. But discomfort often means that you are stretching into a new territory. It doesn't mean that it's over. It doesn't mean that you're at the end of your rope. It doesn't mean you're going to break, even if it feels like you did. Discomfort means that you're stretching, and nobody likes to be uncomfortable, but it's a necessary part of growth. So let's talk about how feelings are real, but not always reliable. Okay? Because we cannot live our life based on our feelings. And some of us grew up thinking that that was the way to do. That was the way to go. Just, living your life based off of how you feel, responding to life based off of how you feel, rather than taking some time for some introspection. So here's something important that I want you to understand. Your feelings are real, but they are not always reliable indicators of progress. Some days you will feel confident. Some days you won't. Some days you will feel inspired. And some days you will feel uncertain. Your emotions do not determine your potential. Just because you're having a bad week doesn't mean you're not going to the moon. Just because you had a bad month, just because you lost a job doesn't mean that you're not going big places. I don't know who it is. I think it was like Steve Jobs or somebody, one of these big, great people who did great things. They got fired from another company before they created, like, let's just say if it was him, the iPhone, or I don't know who it was, but you guys, there's some great people where the chapter of their story before the greatness, it was crazy. It doesn't determine your potential, the things that are happening. Now, I want to read this quote by Viktor Frankl, and I want you to write this quote down, and I want you to take some time and really let it resonate with who you are. Because there's some quotes and there's some things that should affect the very way that you live, the very way that you think. And this quote, it really means a lot to me because I believe in this. Okay, so let me read the quote to you. It says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space, there is power to choose your response. Resilient people learn how to pause in that space. They acknowledge the emotion, but they do not allow it to control their decisions. I know because I've had moments where stimulus has caused me to have an emotion, but I pause and I decide what my response is going to be, not based off of my emotion, but based off of who I am and where I'm going as a person. Between stimulus and response, there is a space in between. And in that space is your power to choose your response. Meaning, when you're having a bad week, there is a moment for you to decide how you're going to respond to that. When people didn't like you, when people laughed you off the stage your first time on stage speaking, you have a chance to decide what your response is. I remember the first time I started doing Bible studies. This is so funny. I was writing up these long Bible studies. I was so into the word, so into just studying. And I mean, I would have Bibles, all kinds of Bibles and concordance and, just really studying. And I would create these Bible studies. And it was like a commentary type of study. And I remember I had a lot of people who loved it, right? They were just so blessed by it. But I had a family member at the very beginning tell me that it was so boring that she would never watch it again. She was just like, this is super boring. I won't be able to watch this. And I was so blown away, like, because it was a family member, somebody I trusted to give me, to encourage me or whatever it is. And I'm sure that they thought that they were being helpful. I don't know. But at that moment, I had an opportunity to choose my response. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I was so affected by that it took me about a year. I kind of put it down for a little bit and I slowed down. I was like, maybe this isn't for me. I don't know if I'm that polarizing or exciting because I'm gonna be me no matter what. And it took a long time for me to pick it back up again, right? But I could have kept going. I could have just kept going. Who cares if somebody doesn't like it? Who cares if somebody's like, I'm not going to listen to your stuff? Bye. You go find somebody you like. What does that have to do with me? Right? And it doesn't even have to be offensive. There is a space between stimulus and response, and it determines your outcome. It determines your life. It determines your results. It determines your acceleration, your speed in life to get to the places that you're supposed to go. So this is important. You have to learn how to grab a hold of that moment and make decisions that are going to help you. Because one decision today could affect your tomorrow, could affect your next week, could affect your next 2 years. And that's why it's important to have control over your emotions, have control over your mind so that you're not just responsive, right? But you're able to take control of that moment. So, sorry about that. Let's talk about some biblical examples of perseverance. Biblical examples of perseverance. So throughout scripture, we see examples of perseverance. People who continued forward even when circumstances were difficult. Think about Joseph. He faced rejection, betrayal, and setbacks. Yet he continued to move forward with faith. Now I think about Joseph all the time because I'm like, if I was Joseph, it takes a real heart of God, the heart of God to be inside of you, to be able to love people who hurt you. Love people who spitefully use you to get ahead. It takes a real heart of God to desire for those people to still be okay. Because what did Joseph say to his brothers when he finally revealed to them, oh, I'm your brother and I'm here? After all of his life, he went through so many things because of what they did to him. He went through so much. He was in jail. All of these things are domino effects of his brothers selling him to Egypt. But he said, now I know that God has preserved me and put me through all of this so that I could save not the whole world and everybody, even though, yes, that's what he did, right? He saved everybody from starvation based on God speaking to him and giving him a plan. And, he was placed in second in command over everybody, including his brothers. But what did he say? He said, now I know that God preserved me through all of this so that I could save you. Just let that settle in. He told the very enemies who did him so dirty that now I know that God preserved me so I could save you, so that I could be a blessing to you. Now that's a heart of God. That's a heart of God. Now we know, why did God bless Joseph? Why did God elevate Joseph? Because he had perseverance to persevere. He didn't know fully what his dream meant when he got the dream. He didn't know when he was getting thrown in jail after jail and being a slave and doing all this stuff that he was going to the top. But he continued on serving God, loving God, doing what he knew he was supposed to do in every situation. That is resilience. Resilience often grows through seasons of uncertainty. Resilience often grows through seasons of uncertainty. Your story is still being written. Okay? So let's talk about what emotional resilience looks like in sales. Okay? Emotional resilient professionals understand something important. Results fluctuate. In life, results fluctuate. In relationships, results fluctuate. With your kids, results fluctuate. In life, results, say it with me, results fluctuate. But effort remains consistent. Effort, your character, your integrity, your skill set growth, your ability to grow your skill set, and you're showing up every day, that remains consistent. That's something that you have control over. They don't define themselves by one conversation. Emotionally resilient professionals, they don't define themselves by one conversation. They focus on long-term growth. Jim Rohn once said, don't wish it were easier, wish it were better. Don't wish it were easier. Wish it were better. Resilience grows when you focus on improving yourself rather than avoiding difficulty. Resilience grows when you focus on improving yourself rather than avoiding difficulty. Okay, so we need to stay grounded during challenges, okay? I built this business and it's called Building Foundations. This sales and coaching company, and then I also have a business accelerator for people who want to have their own businesses. And I've been doing business consulting for a little over like 6 years, and obviously I do business consulting as an advisor, so I'd say even longer, right? Because I've been in the finance industry for over 10 years. But I wanted to make sure that the need that I'm feeling with my business is foundational. And God gave me a vision for my business to help people who desire greatness, who desire to go to these places that they know that they're supposed to go, to do it the right way. Because even the wealthy people that I was running into, they were throwing money into businesses that they didn't do any market research about. They didn't know fully, and they didn't fully understand the market that they were getting into. They didn't really understand a lot of things. They just wanted to make a good investment. But it takes somebody who is diligent to build a strong foundation in whatever it is that they do, right? And so we have to be grounded and strong in whatever we go into and build those strong foundations so that when the storms of life, Matthew 7, verse 24, talking about the man who built his house on the rock and the man who built his house on the sand. Most people build their houses on sand. Most people build their life on sand. They build their businesses on sand. They build their relationships on sand. They're not building a strong foundation that will last for generation to generation. It is so important for you to know the principles and the basic foundational principles for you to build your life on. And that's my passion. And that's my burden that I carry for every person who I help. And so now I'm going to give you guys 3 things, 3 habits that you can do to help build emotional resilience in your life. And these are things that you can do, anybody can do. The first one is have a perspective, have the right perspective. I remember moments where, maybe there was times, a long time ago when I was struggling to put food on the table. I was struggling just because I was living paycheck to paycheck and every dollar counted. And I remember moments where, in that day I was stressed. I could feel the stress in my body where it's like, I'm trying to figure it all out. And that day it felt like it was going to be the end of the world if I didn't figure it out. But then the next moment when I figured it out, all of that stress just melted away. Now, what changed from the moment when I didn't have it to the moment when I did have it? My understanding of the situation. You see, if we understand that our God is able to take care of us and he will never leave us or forsake us, he will never leave us barren or begging for bread. There's always a way for him to get to you. There's always a way for him to do what he needs to do. Then your perspective will be changed from the beginning, even before the trials of life come. I can't tell you how many times, even recently, not the same type of struggles, but I've run into struggles and my response is different because of my perspective of who? Not me. Because when I look at me, I just see a random person who's deeply flawed. But when I know the God that I serve, that he walks with me, he goes before me, he goes behind me, he's ordered his angels to protect me, that I will not hurt my foot on a stone, that he is watching out for me, that he has a plan for me, not to harm me, but to give me hope in a future, etc., etc. Now I'm looking at the situation in front of me thinking, okay, I'm not sure what this is about, but I do know one thing. I trust God. You have to have a solid perspective in your life overall. Remember, that progress takes time. Rome was not built in a night. Nobody wakes up just amazing at anything. Everything can be learned. Everything can be developed. Number 2, preparation. So number 1, perspective. Number 2, preparation. Perspective without preparation is useless. Just like the Bible says, faith without works is dead. Because if God is like, I have a business for you and it's right around that corner, and you're like, God has a business for me, and you're not going around the corner, but it's over there, but you're still here. And he's like, I need you to go over there. The business is over there. But you're like, no, he said he has a business for me. I believe it. You're never going to get to that business because the business is over there. You have to do what you got to do to get to the things that God has in store for you. You have to learn. You have to practice so that you can reduce uncertainty in what you're doing. If you're in sales, get your scripting, get a mentor, ask people to let you shadow them. Do whatever it is that you can do to develop yourself. That's preparation. Number 3, so we have number 1, perspective. Number 2, preparation. And number 3, the most important one is purpose. The most important one is purpose. When your purpose is clear, temporary setbacks feel smaller. When you know that you were called to help a dying generation, when you know that you have to do this because people need you to do it, people need you to rise up into your calling, people need you to be able to start those ministries, but you need the money to do it, so you're on a path and a plan, then when something happens, you're not going to be at the end of your rope because you're still focused on the plan that God has for you. Right? Right, ladies? We have to be people who are diligent to know the purpose. And I'm not just talking about purpose like, oh, I'm supposed to like start a hair care business. That's my purpose. No, I'm talking about what did God ordain for you to do on this earth? And it usually has to do with people. I'm not saying purpose is not rooted in hair care. That's an amazing business. That's an amazing industry. But my point is knowing, what did God design me for? Why did God create Danielle? Who needs me to rise into my calling? And then when you're dealing with setbacks, you know you're going to that place that God had called you to be. And there's only one way to it. Like the little book about the bear or whatever. You can't go over it. Can't go under it. You got to go through it. You got to get straight to it. So when you know you're doing something, you keep moving forward. When you know that there's a plan, even in the midst of uncertainty, even in the midst of controversy or hardship, you keep moving forward. Now, let's just do a really quick practical exercise before we get ready to go. Okay, so next time you feel discouraged, I want you to ask yourself this question. What can this moment teach me? What can this moment teach me? Ask yourself, what can this moment teach me? Every experience contains feedback. Every conversation builds skill. Growth happens through repetition. Okay, so I want you to take this identity shift that I'm going to give you right now. This is a powerful identity shift. And I want you to take it and I want you to use it. Okay, so here's an identity shift that I want you to remember. Emotionally resilient people are not people who never feel discouraged. They are people who keep moving forward anyways. Resilience is built through consistent effort, faith, and perspective. And over time, that resilience becomes one of your greatest strengths. Okay? So If this session helped you to feel emotionally resilient, I want you to go ahead and comment the word resilient below. And if you have been watching this series and you are interested in learning more about a skill that builds confidence while helping others, you do not even, or without, you don't even need experience. I'm sorry. You do not even need experience. High Performance Sales Academy is currently hiring setters and closers, and I want to meet you. I want to mentor you. I want to take you places that you never thought you would go. You see, my business, Building Foundations, is not just about teaching you sales and helping you to build yourself in sales. It's about building a group of women who want to build a legacy, who want to prepare something for their children and their children's children that could be beyond what they ever experienced, or even if they did experience it, maybe this is your vehicle to take your family to the places that you know you need to go. And that's not just about living the luxury lifestyle, but having the finances to do that ministry, having the finances to support those ministries, having the finances to do the things that you know that you're called to do. And so, if you would like to learn more about that, I actually have created a free mini course, no strings attached. I just wanted to give people an opportunity to learn about high ticket sales, to see what it is, and if it is even something that you would want to be doing. So, if that is you, I want you to comment the word Zoom at the bottom, super random. Comment the word Zoom at the bottom. And we're going to make sure that somebody gets that mini course to you so that you can watch it. There's like, I think I put a ton of good stuff in there. I think there's about at least 8 hours of information in there for you to learn and figure out like what is this thing, and it's all free, no strings attached. But with that being said, I will see you tomorrow in session number 19. And remember, we say Godspeed because God is the driving force of every single thing that we do. So bye for now. I'll see you tomorrow. Godspeed. Bye.